are you? Thank you. I was just about to ask Amy to start the recording. Welcome everybody to the Snapshots sessions. Snapshots, by their very definition, is the clue in the name, are short presentations. And today, each presentation will be no longer than 7 minutes. And our presenters have a great mix of projects, research, and workflows to share with you. We'll have each presenter give their presentation, and then once everyone has presented, then we'll do questions. So please keep hold of your questions until the end, or put them in the chat or the Q&A as they come to you, whichever works best for you. Presenters, to keep you on time, I'm going to give you a verbal warning by saying the word time when you're at 7 minutes, and that will be your cue to wrap it up so that we can move on to the next presenter. So I think those are everything for the session logistics. So as we've got a few presentations to get through, let's get started. So first up is Rebecca. Over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Annette. Hi, and thank you for attending. I am Rebecca Bealer from the LSU Health Sciences Center New Orleans Library. My colleague and co-host Marlene Bishop is unable to be with us today as she is attending a relative's funeral, and our thoughts are with her and her family. I will be presenting her parts as well, and here's what we wanted to share. We were informed in February 2023 that a portion of the floor housing our print journal collection was to be reallocated for construction of an IT server room. That led to removing and withdrawing over 33,000 bound volumes. As a state institution, all library materials are state property, and we must maintain records of all print items that are added and withdrawn. Our library catalog serves as our inventory, so we use this weeding project to establish better cataloging procedures for recording and reporting withdrawals. One of our goals was to develop an improved and simplified method to generate collection statistics from our catalog. These statistics are used in a variety of reports, including financial and inventory reports for campus administration. We needed our new method to easily identify all items withdrawn, 1, for specific projects, and 2, for specific time periods. We also needed to break out statistics based on format. In this case, we were looking at books and journals, and ultimately, we wanted this method to be something we could reuse for other projects and timeframes. We have the Sierra ILS from Innovative Interfaces and Clarivate. In previous years, our methods for deaccessioning materials were not cohesive. The only consistent factor was that the item fixed field status would be coded W for withdrawn. We incorporated 2 additional fixed fields, sticky status and iCode 2, along with 2 variable length fields for messages and notes. We used the sticky status field to identify the format of the withdrawn item. We utilized the iCode 2 field in 2 ways. During a fiscal year, this code is labeled N to identify that it is a current fiscal year withdrawal. Once the fiscal year is finalized and all reports have been generated, the code is changed to a W for withdrawn. Items with an iCode 2 of W and a status of W are fully withdrawn. We use the message field to identify which fiscal year the item was withdrawn, and we used the note field to identify the project. Once we had a new coding system hammered out, the next goal was to simplify editing over 33,000 item records. And here's how we went from those item records in our Sierra ILS to list with scannable barcodes to take you directly to the item record needing editing. First, Excel needs to be prepared for the data. We were copying 6 columns of information from Sierra, so we selected 6 columns in Excel and changed the formatting to text. Excel really dislikes barcodes, and we needed those numbers to not be fiddled with, as they were very important. Next, we selected and copied the item record info for the withdrawn items in our ILS. Then, back in Excel, we chose Paste Special and then text. After pasting the item record info, we deleted extraneous columns and rearranged the order of the data. For our purposes, we had the volume information of each item in column A and the corresponding barcodes in column B. Then we unleashed a little Excel magic. In column C, we ran the formula that's on this slide to format the barcodes for the next step. Make sure this formula is in an unformatted column or it will not work. The next step is to change the font of that new column to a barcode font. Our favorite is Mark Tan's C Code 39, which is available free online from many sources. After you've changed that font, now we have scannable barcodes for our item records. Yay! One lesson we learned was to not bold the barcode font, as that made it unusable. This made it very easy to pull up and edit each of those 33,661 item records, and we completed that work in less than 2 months. Creating reports for this project was a breeze, since we were only looking at item record details. We created lists in the library catalog and exported the data to Excel. The exported data required little to no cleanup, since everything was designed with the final report in mind. Here are examples of our withdrawn monographs and journals spreadsheets. The new system provides a simple but effective framework that can be customized for future projects. While not everyone uses item codes the same way, the main takeaway is that using a combination of fixed and variable fields is an easy way to build better collection statistics and reports. And please contact us if you have any questions, and thanks so much for attending.
Thank you, Rebecca. And you were under time, so I didn't need to do my stopwatch thing. So thank you. On to our next presenter, Jessie Copeland.
Hello, sorry, couldn't find the unmute button. Hi, I'm Jessie Copeland. I'm the Director of Resource Services at Emory University Libraries. And I'm going to be talking about summer internships, making a difference 10 weeks at a time. So just a quick overview of Emory. We are an R1 institution. We are an ARL member. And we have several libraries on campus. I think five libraries. So we've done these internships. This summer will actually be our 4th year. And the internships, I'm going to be talking about the one that was specifically in my area in resource description. But we also had 2 other internships in access services and conservation. So, just to give you an overview of these of this internship, our internship took place in what we call our resource description department, which is cataloging. It was 10 weeks in the summer. We like 10 weeks. We also did this past year in 24 and this year in 25, it is paid, and we also provide housing on top of the pay. So that has made a tremendous difference in the number of people who can participate or apply to participate. We do this in a project-based manner. So each intern is given a project, and at the end of the summer, we have them present on what they've done throughout the year, 10 weeks. So there are several advantages to doing a 10-week internship rather than, say, something like a 1 year or even just a semester. The shorter time period makes it a little bit more doable for the supervisor, so that it does add on work, obviously, but it's a doable period. The cost is also, since we did want to pay and we also determined that we'd like to offer housing as well, the shorter time period makes it more fiscally possible for us to do. The advantages also, we're giving students, generally library students or recent graduates, some real life experience. We're very cognizant of being able to um, give these new graduates or students some experience, some working in a real library and that type of thing. And then on top of that, because it is based, I'm not going to lie, it's a boon for us because we get projects completed. For example, in the past couple of years, the resource description interns have been working on our implementation of the Homosaurus alternative vocabulary. This summer, we have an extra intern that will also be working on cataloging a collection of books that we received as a gift from Elton John when he sold his Atlanta home. He donated a large collection of books, and so we have an intern that will be working on getting that cataloged. So there are some challenges to doing a 10-week summer internship. One of those is training. It is short, so it's a shorter time period, so it means we need to train them pretty quickly to get them up to speed. We use Alma, and so for anyone to benefit, we have to get them trained so that they can be working on the project and getting some good experience out of this. The other challenge is obviously funding, is that the funding's not dedicated. We have to ask each year for the funding. I think this year, between a 40-hour intern with housing, I think it came out to about, I think it was about, I want to say maybe $18,000 each. So it's 15 to 18,000. So that is a challenge as well. But we think it's been extremely successful. The interns have greatly enjoyed their time here. We've kept in touch with several. They've had a lot of good experience with us. They've completed projects. We've had them write blog posts for our library blog. They've presented to the library. I'm sure we've had some of them present with us at conferences about the internships. So that's been really great. Would like to continue with this. Funding is always a issue, but it's had great success. And in fact, we've had such success that once others found out about it, the collection management department from a different division horned in and wanted to do their own internship. So this year, they'll be having their own collection management intern. And then the possibilities. We think there's a great number of possibilities for expanding this. For instance, with resource description, with it being cataloging, my head of resource description has suggested that we could in fact have a remote intern, so we wouldn't even have to do housing. So there's that. There's possibilities of it rotating around different departments. There's just a lot of possibilities when it's 10 weeks. So that's my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. On to our next presenter, Wenli.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't find my unmute. Yes, we can hear you and see your screen.
Okay, let me see. Where is sorry, I need to find the slideshow. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session for empowering e-resource decisions, how our custom-built tool streamline renewal tracking. This is we are Wenli, Clare and Keith Comos from University of Houston. Before we introduce our tool, here's a bit about our institution. The University of Houston is a Carnegie R1 university with about 46,000 students. Our library has over 50 librarians and more than 100 staff. We manage about 10 million collections budget and oversee over 500 databases and e-journal packages. Historically, we tracked renewal information using spreadsheets and tracked decision-making discussions through running meeting notes. Given the volume and complexity of our data, this system was not efficient and did not effectively facilitate succession planning or proactive renewal considerations. As staff retired or left, we lost critical institutional knowledge and wasted time combing through past year's meeting notes for relevant information. To address these challenges, we developed an online application that creates a record for every continuing resource we license. It allows us to record discussion notes, usage data, decisions, and more. We can filter by decision status, renewal cycle, vendor, resource type, and more. We can export all data to a spreadsheet for further analysis in Excel, or generate cancellation reports that include rationale behind each decision. Here's a snapshot of our May renewal list. We can sort by cost per use to flag items that need further review. Our evaluation process starts 6 months ahead, so decisions for May are typically made in November. This gives us ample time to consult stakeholders, negotiate with vendors, and make thoughtful decisions. It also helps our billing staff know if decisions are current. Flags help quickly identify resources we are monitoring or those considered essential. Clicking on a resource opens a detailed view. We track multiple years of data and use built-in formulas for automated calculations. It also displays which usage metric is being used, helpful for consistent evaluation. The detailed view lets us capture basic information, document technical issues, and attach files. This is a view for TextShare package, a group of databases we have access to through state consortia. Although we evaluate the TextShare package as a whole, we include individual usage breakdowns as attachments. This allows us to assess whether to retain individual titles if they leave TextShare. Note that flags shown here are just for demonstration. We are not currently facing technical or billing issues with TextShare. A key feature is the ability to track notes over time. This helps preserve institutional memory, especially when staff turnover occurs. Sometimes we include faculty feedback, which can be lengthy and hard to manage in spreadsheets. If we decide to cancel a resource, there are additional fields that allow us to capture more detail, such as effective date, cost tier, and reasons. This information feeds into the cancellation report, which we aim to connect with the library website someday. You might be wondering how we build this. We used LAMP architecture. While we won't go into technical details here, Keith is happy to chat more if you are interested. We are continually enhancing the tool. Next steps include connecting to our library website so that renewal decisions and rationales are visible publicly, promoting transparency. We also plan to integrate it with Alma to automatically sync bibliographic and financial data. Long term, we aim to release an open source version so other institutions can benefit from this system.
Thank you. So on to another presentation. Claire, are you ready to share your slides?
Hi and welcome. My name is Clare Keating, and since 2019, I have held the position of Assistant Professor and Electronic Resources Librarian with the University of Toledo Libraries. Today, I'll be presenting e-resources instance tracking, seeking patterns while demonstrating workload. To provide a little background, when I began in my current position, I brought with me professional experience in reporting library data for national surveys, state-level reports, and directly to institutional stakeholders. Being familiar with the regular data needs for these information sharing opportunities, I quickly realized that a hole existed in the data landscape for a large portion of my role as e-resources librarian. While the public services aspect of my position were to be reported via 2 standardized internal forms, and library staff kept thorough order history and library holdings records, nothing was in place yet for recording the technologist portion of my work. To put it in terms of the classic e-resources lifecycle by Pesch, local records had been very well maintained for the acquire stage and partially maintained for the evaluate monitor stage, but little tangible evidence existed for activities completed within the provide access, administer, and provide support stages. Local data was scant on vendor support ticket details, completed checklists for vendor platform migrations, frequency of discovery layer customizations, maintenance of library administrator accounts and authentication connections, and so on. At the barest minimum, I wanted a vendor-independent data store I could refer to for support ticket identification numbers. The next step then was to determine how to start collecting the data going forward. In summer 2019, the libraries were undergoing Open Athens implementation, so at the time it felt imperative to start collecting data and make an allowance for future changes to the process rather than allow much, if any, delay. Some preferred qualities arose when I began identifying which tool or software could serve in recording this information. It was hoped that the solution would be something familiar, could collect information consistently, keep multi-year data with low risk of data corruption or loss, while still easy to export for sharing. Ultimately, a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet was created and kept on the department's shared drive. Initially, I had wanted to keep the data easy to share so that I could regularly summarize progress on specific incidents for library stakeholders, but as my year 1 tenure track dossier submission date approached, having a record of e-resource work performed in a format easy to dashboard for non-librarian reviewers became a doubly welcome asset. The 6-column Excel spreadsheet ended up being rather simplistic in design, which encouraged consistent recording. The contacted party column is for specific external parties like a vendor or a library consortium. The brief descriptions are kept to 1 sentence to provide just enough detail to aid in searching my email archive, and help request type helps classify the original incident reporter as internal or external to the university or myself as reporter. A limitation with the current tracking method is that all incidents are lumped together without indication of whether they were resolved with a single task or involved a multi-step process. 5.5 years on, and we have some interesting data to look at. July 2019 through October 2019 are outlined in the table to denote where that Open Athens implementation projects had influenced incident counts. After rounding, the 5.5-year averages are 8.3 incidents per month and 32.4 incidents per semester. Here we see all years stacked on top of each other. Going forward, I can generally plan for between 4 to 11 incidents any given month, with higher spikes in the presence of disruptive factors. During the pandemic, peak times included fall prep, calendar year changeover, and midterms. Although no consistent post-pandemic peak season patterns seem to be emerging, in actuality, I'm considering this level of balance a good thing, as it illustrates that the originating forces for these incidents don't appear to target particular months or semester. February through March and October through November both have the potential of becoming mid to lower end demand periods. I do wonder how the overall perspective might have changed or stayed the same had effort per incident been somehow documented. With the annual totals, remembering that 2019 represents only half-year data and a major implementation, we can look at the data through the lens of how the COVID-19 global pandemic likely influenced local e-resources workload. Using the calendar year 2022 through 24 plateau to calculate a normal times average of 79 incidents per calendar year, the local data indicates this portion of ERL workload was then 56.9% higher than normal in calendar year 2020 and remained 37.9% higher than normal in calendar year 2021. As we go live with Alma and Primo V this summer, it will be interesting to monitor how post-migration tasks, like once again updating our link resolver URL with resource vendors, may further influence the ongoing data set. In the future, I'd be interested in comparing the local experience to other institutions, and have begun contemplating adjusting data collection methods to incorporate the ticket coding schema developed by Goldfinger and Hemhauser in 2016, which was later used in 2018 by Brett and Lowry in 2020. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to answering any questions at the end.
Thank you, Claire. And on to our final snapshot, Jessica and James.
Yes, thank you. I'm just trying to find my screen. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Rigg, and I am the head of collection services for the Georgia Southern University Libraries. My colleague, James Mays, is our new acquisitions librarian, who we're very thankful to have now because it took us a while to fill that position. For the sake of time, I will be presenting our slides while James keeps an eye on the chat for the Q&A portion. So we wanted to talk about our experiences with demand-driven acquisitions, since we've really been leaning hard into it for the last couple of years. And since we're facing an upcoming change, which I'll talk about later, I really wanted to just reflect on the things that we've learned and what worked for us and what didn't work for us. So we've been messing with DDA for about 10 years now, which is surprising, but we have learned a lot, and it's been an interesting experience. Sorry. So what is DDA? I'm sure everybody is familiar with it or has worked with it in their own library. Demand-driven acquisitions is a collection development model which librarians can use to create a set of pre-selected titles that fit the scope of the library's collection development policy, and then they can make that selection available for patrons, and then they actually select the which titles to purchase, which was very appealing to us at the time, because one thing that we discovered was that our existing approval plan was just not working for us. It's something that we had for years, and one thing that we discovered was that for about 10 years, the most recently acquired titles had almost no circulation. So we were getting titles and putting them on the shelves and cataloging them and processing them, and then no one was checking them out, or very few of them were being checked out at all. And so we wanted to see, like, how are we missing what people are interested in and what people need? And so we decided to investigate DDA. And other reasons that we felt that we weren't getting the feedback that we used to is that we were not getting a lot of feedback from departmental faculty. A decade earlier, people were coming into the library to go through stacks of books in our department to say, oh yeah, I want that one, I want that one. And we just did not have faculty who were willing to come onto campus, into the library. And also, a lot of our faculty just wanted, they were very interested in electronic resources that they could access from the comfort of their own homes or their own offices. And they were very interested in articles more than books at that time. And librarian liaisons had, who interfaced with our faculty, also had a lot on their plates. And so they couldn't make those decisions on the behalf of faculty like maybe they would have earlier, because we just were stretched very, very thin. And also there was just a growing demand for ebooks. People really liked the convenience and the idea of it. So the first thing that we started was the ProQuest electronic demand-driven acquisitions model. We started that in 2015. We started with unmediated, but we had a very unfortunate incident in 2020 where over the Christmas break, about $21,000 worth of ebooks were downloaded over like a 28-hour period. And from outside of the country. So that was something that was very alarming to us. We contacted ProQuest. They were very helpful. They had those titles removed from our account. We had the money returned to our deposit account, and we immediately switched to mediated, which is a little bit more work, but the ProQuest EDDA system is so well integrated into our catalog and our discovery layer that the effort that's required for the back of house staff and technical services, collection services, is very manageable compared to the amount of orders that we are processing and how high the usage was based on the titles that we were getting. So again, we had excellent customer support. Our orders were filled very quickly. Depending on when they come in and when someone's on the, is available to respond to them, somebody might put in a request and then they get 20 minutes later, but even if it's a holiday or whatever, it's usually like 3 days. So it's very, very quick compared to our print acquisitions process. So this was so successful that we decided to investigate whether or not there was any option for the print, because as we said before with the approval plan, that's where we were suffering. We did not have very good circulation for our print books that we were purchasing on the approval plan. So in 2016, we tried the Coots PDDA, and Coots was a subdivision of ProQuest. So it's always been mediated because we just it did not work well with our library catalog. We had Voyager at the time, and the links never worked. It was very confusing to faculty and students. For some reason, the brief records that we received had call numbers, and so people assumed that meant that they were on the shelves, and we already had it. And so it was very confusing. The requests weren't automatically sent over to Oasis at the time, and so we were having to manually take the requests that we receive via the catalog that were then emailed to us, and then actually go into the Oasis platform and order the books manually. And there was it just was not a very seamless process at all. And then the fulfillment of orders could take weeks. These are print books, it's not going to be instantaneous like it is for ebooks. And we're not Amazon either. We can't promise 2-day shipping either because we have to process things. So here's an overview of just the number of titles that we've added to the collection. And again, I should have added a slide for the usage, but to show how much usage we had for the ProQuest EDDA, especially in cases of community reads, our online program, or our program for FYE students, in which they can basically a large book club. So we leaned pretty heavily into ProQuest EDDA, and even after we kind of canceled the whole, the print DDDA program, we still decided that we really liked Oasis as a firm print ordering platform, and we continued to use that for our firm orders. And especially with, sorry, thank you. With our print or EDDA, our students wanted just one platform, and so we started leaning very hard onto that. So we've got a message from Clare saying that they will no longer be allowing people to purchase single titles from them, either ebooks or print. And then later that was changed. But it was actually perfect timing for us because we're migrating to a new ILS system. We have a new acquisitions librarian. We've had some issues with some of the books that were in our EDDA pool. And we decided that we were going to lean into firm ordering from here on out. We removed all of our EDDA records before migration. We had previously moved the print DDDA records before, and we might investigate EBSCO EDDA in the future, but not until we have been in the new system for at least a year. And we're really going to lean into our tools that we use to get feedback from our patrons, our faculty, and our students. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to all of our presenters for those really great snapshots. And those are some fantastic projects that you all are working on. So now we have about 10 minutes for questions. I see there's already a question in the Q&A, so I'm going to go to that, but please put more questions into the chat or the Q&A as we move forward. So the first question, which I think is for Jessie, is what kind of projects did the 10-week summer interns complete?
So they were working on mainly implementing homosaurus terms. So doing authority work in that way. So for us, conservation, they did a few other things, access services. There was last year was we started a textbook initiative. They worked on that. So it's usually things like that.
Okay. I had a question as well about funding for your project. So is that funding or is it like donor funding? How do you fund those internships?
It was library funding. Okay. Initially, we have a internal grant process, and that first year, because we didn't offer housing, we were just under the number for getting a small grant for that. And then once we started asking for funding, it just honestly it comes out of salary savings.
Well, that's always a good pot of money to use. So,
yeah.
Thank you. And there's a question again on the intern project. Are the interns undergraduates or graduate students?
Generally, they are graduate students, either in library school or very recent graduates. Yeah.
There's a question. Thank you. The question for Wenli: do you use your tool for everything, or other than individual? Do you use your tool for things other than individual journals, or everything that could be renewed? So I think they're asking, do you use your tool for databases and other sort of products?
Yeah. So actually, we mostly use the tool for databases, ebooks, or journal packages, this kind of thing. We haven't included like individual journals titles there. We have like journal packages, but individual journals, we have a lot. So currently we still have a spreadsheet that has individual subscribed titles there.
Thank you. Any other questions from folks? I think there was a comment in the chat, Wenli, earlier about maybe being able to share the code. Is that something that you are thinking about being able to do?
Actually, the person who wrote the code, who developed that, I think he has the plan. Yeah. Okay. So it depends on bandwidth, of course. Yeah.
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat or the Q&A. No. There's lots of thank yous because these are really good projects that I think people need to kind of think about and let percolate. So if there are no more questions, I will thank our panelists, our Snapshot presenters once again for these great projects. And I will end the session here and see you all again soon at a later. Oh, no, one more. For Jessica and James, what kind of model will you be using going forward for acquisitions?
We still plan to use we're going to do a mediated response. We're still going to allow, like in the catalog, for them to be able to request materials. But like, again, I don't know if Jessica, she mentioned like we had a problem with like AI materials that were being requested by certain publishers. And I think like at some point you do need some human mediation to make sure that you're not, you know, purchasing materials that aren't really worth adding to your collection.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I will say, as James said, you know, we are leaning more into the human report approach. We're going to focus on firm ordering, but you know, with our new migration to a new system, we're going to be cleaning up the data for a while. So we're not super eager to have new things, but once that's established, then we'll really expand into looking into more EDDA options. But right now, we're going to have a cool down period, I think.
I think there's a comment in the chat about, because I think a couple of institutions were talking about migrations, and just interesting to see kind of how things will change post-migration for some of these projects, because the migration is going to impact everything. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the session. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you to our panelists. Thanks, everybody.